Age of Wonders 4 came out back in 2023, and if you tried this game early on and didn't like it, or you have simply heard the game name floating around without concretely knowing what it is, now is a pretty good time to take another look at this game, because despite the massive amount of paid DLCs, this game has gotten a huge number of free updates since launch. The base game is massive, and right now this game is also 50% off during the Steam summer sale. So this video gets you through everything worth knowing before buying this, good and bad, so you actually get the full picture before spending any money. At its core, this is a fantasy 4X strategy game, combined with real turn-based tactical combat. So in this game you explore, build cities, and research magic instead of tech. And when armies meet, you drop into a hex grid and move your units around one at a time. You choose where your front line stands, when to send in your hero, and try to keep your archers out of melee. Before doing any of that though, you pick who you're playing. The game has ready-made rulers, like a human king who leads knights, a good choice for new players, since the faction is simple and heals fast on the map. But the game's bigger draw is the faction creator. You pick a body type for your people, elves, dwarves, halflings, or something stranger, and then you can add traits and cultural choices that essentially shape how they fight and act toward others. For example, if you desire to create your own version of a demon spider queen ruling an underground society, then that's pretty much what the system is built for. It also doesn't stop quite there. Depending on which magic you research, your people can physically change over a campaign, growing new features, or taking on demonic or angelic traits. A faction can look completely different by the end of the game than it did at the start. Once you are playing, the loop feels like most 4X games. Your scouts explore the map, your hero fights and levels up like a normal RPG character, and your cities grow by collecting food, gold, mana and knowledge. Knowledge goes into researching magic. This is split into tiers, and each new tier unlocks spells, units and sometimes those transformations. There's also Imperium. This is a slower resource, used for the big empire-wide upgrades, so you're always deciding whether to spend it now or save it. Combat is where the game asks the most of you. Every unit gets action points each turn, and unit types really do play different roles. Your shield units hold the front line and take the hits. Pole arms are strong against anything big or fast. Your archers hit hard from range, but get destroyed quickly. Your supporting units heal and buff whoever's nearby. You can let the game auto-resolve a fight, or take control and fight it yourself. And if the auto-resolve goes badly, then you can just retry this as a real battle, instead of accepting the loss. Around all of this there are proper diplomacy and expansion mechanics. Smaller, independent settlements are spread across the map, and you either conquer them or slowly win them over with gifts until they join you. Winning depends on the path you pick, whether that's beating everyone in battle, controlling most of the map, researching a powerful magic victory, or simply outlasting the clock. Now, the updates I mentioned earlier are a big reason to check this game out again, and there's actually a lot to point to. The AI, while still not being perfect, got real improvements more than once, so the fights against it feel less one-sided than they used to. Entire cultures got rebuilt from the ground up. The feudal culture was reworked, then the dark culture got the same treatment, and the most recent big update reworked the reaver culture. The hero recruitment got redone, necromancy basically got a full overhaul, and there's now an item forge system that lets you actually build and upgrade gear. Then the Empire development tree, basically your big empire-wide upgrade path, got restructured as well. On top of all that, there was a dedicated update just to make the early hours friendlier for new players, since starting out used to throw a lot at you, and none of this stuff costs anything extra. It is simply part of the base game now, and the base game has kept growing steadily since launch, which brings up the obvious complaint. There's a lot of paid DLC attached to this game. Expansion passes, extra content, cosmetics. It definitely adds up fast if you want everything, but still, the base game here is not a skeleton of a game. It is fairly massive, and the free side hasn't been ignored. So the real question here isn't whether paid content exists, because yes, it clearly does. A simple glance at the store page will confirm that. The important thing is whether the base game was neglected because of this, and simply based on how much has come out for free. That's not really the case. And no, it's not perfect either. The AI, despite the improvements, can still stop pushing you during a long war, instead of actually attacking. Diplomacy stays fairly simple compared to how deep the empire building side gets, and there is a lot happening in this game at once. Many resource types, magic, cultures, hero builds, so the first few hours can still feel like a lot, even with the improved tutorial. So to be clear, if you buy this game on sale, you don't actually need any of the DLC to have the complete experience. The base game by itself is huge, and that's the part that keeps getting those big free updates. The paid content simply sits on top as extra stuff. So if you're starting out, it makes the most sense sense to grab the base game, and only look at an expansion later if a specific theme catches your eye. If you do enjoy building something unusual from scratch, and watching this change over a campaign, and you don't mind a bit of a learning curve, then the base game of Age of Wonders 4 is in a genuinely good state, and it is, in my opinion, definitely worth half its price, without a shadow of a doubt.